You want to make hardstyle because it is cheaper than therapy, but you have no clue where to start. Today I'll show you all you need to know in the least intimidating way I could think of. Hi, I'm Sour and I make videos about hardstyle production while pretending this doesn't hurt my actual hardstyle production. And today I'll tell you all you need to know to get started making hardstyle. I won't go into specifics on how to navigate FL Studio because that will alienate people with other software and it is simply not relevant for the topic of today's video. To get used to where to find what you need, I recommend to watch a basic orientation video about your software and follow along. But if you are the impatient type, and judging by my YouTube watch time I fucking know you are, I did make some visual learning material about navigating in FL Studio. It is a free download and you can find the link down below. What to expect and managing expectations. You are diving into a new skill and whether you like it or not, probably not. The learning curve may feel more like a learning cliff you need to climb without the rope. If you only care about the view up top, take a helicopter. What I mean by that is that you need to understand this takes years to get good at. And if you don't like the process and only care about the end result, this craft may not be for you. If however you get a good feeling by slowly working on your skills or creating stuff just gives you joy, oh boy, this is going to be magical for you. While getting good takes years, getting to the not shit anymore level can be achieved relatively quickly and the better you get, the more enjoyable it gets, so don't be demotivated. It may not surprise you to hear that someone who has played piano has an advantage with music production. Any musical experience prior to this will help. If you played 3 songs on the guitar back when you tried to impress girls before you gave up on that too, or played flute as a kid because your parents thought you were annoying, you will have an easier time getting through the boring parts. But I've noticed people with video editing experience also have an advantage. And that is because there are a lot of similarities in building a song and building a video timeline. If you don't have any experience in any of these things, don't worry. Depending on your willingness to practice and willingness to overdose on caffeine, you can be up to speed within a week. You may have noticed FL Studio is not the only one of its kind. Ableton, Logic, Studio One and Cubase are just a few options you can pick from. In general, it doesn't really matter which one you pick. I started with FL Studio because I didn't know any better. I stuck with it for the workflow and because change is scary. Your audio workstation digital, or all-wheel drive for short, your WAD or your digital audio workstation, or DAW for short, is probably not gonna be the only software you need. A DAW is not made to make every genre perfectly, it is a happy middle ground to get most people started. A multi-tool can do a lot of things okay-ish, but if you want to get really good at one thing, you may need to get some specialized tools. I have a whole video talking about just that, when to get what to get when, and how to save money on getting what you're winning. Linked in the description. Basic music lingo. You may have seen a tutorial on production already and heard some wild shit you didn't understand. That was probably some music production lingo, or his accent. While I can't of course explain every term, we are going to discuss the basics right now. Sound happens when air wiggles. The faster it wiggles, the higher the pitch. The wiggle speed is what we call frequency and you measure that in hertz. Lower frequencies are bass, middle frequencies are mid and higher ones are annoying. Kidding, all are welcome. Drums. I tried describing these but that sucked, so I'll just show the word on screen and just show you a bunch of examples. Chords versus melodies. A chord are 2 or more notes played together in a way that sounds nice. A melody is a sequence of individual notes. Chords come in all shapes and sizes. The most common ones are major, happy and minor, illegal, sad. There are a bunch more types, but they rarely get used in hardstyle because we are kind of plain. This lowest note is the bass note or root note. The chord gets its name from this. The middle note dictates the vibe. The top note just adds richness and power. We often call this the 7th. If you only play the 7th with the bass note, you get a power chord. A bunch of chords in sequence is called a chord progression, and the lowest notes form the bass line. All you need to know about making these and in-depth on how to make melodies is linked down below. Making the actual sounds can be done in two basic ways, either by recording and playing that recording on different notes. This is done in so-called samplers. Flex, Contact and Nexus are examples. The sound is not made in them, just replayed. Some of those programs offer features for slight modifications. Synthesizers actually allow you to make the sound. You pick the waveform and you can tweak and manipulate this in all sorts of ways to make all sorts of sounds from scratch. EQ or Equalizer. These are made to manipulate the different frequencies your sounds are made of. You can get rid of the bass sounds in your instrument or maybe enhance the midtones. And much more. This is a powerful one. Basic hardstyle lingo. Now that terms like melody don't haunt your dreams anymore, we can dive into the hardstyle specific shit. Hell yeah! Most hardstyle songs feature the same elements, and to really paint the picture I'm just gonna show you more music, and the name of that specific section will be shown on screen. In our drops, hardstyle songs tend to have interesting kick drums. In hardstyle, the kick and bass are one unit. The first and higher pitched bit is called the punch or tock, and the bass part the tail. You have a bunch of different types, like crunch, reverse bass, gated, zaag, resonance and more. More isn't one of the types. If the drop has a melody, the bass in the kicks gets pitched to the corresponding bass line from the chords. Kicks can be made in a bunch of different ways. I have some tutorials on them, but before you dive into making kicks yourself, you need to understand kicks are really difficult to make. And if you start out only using your self-made kicks, it will drag down your songs with them. There are a bunch of cool packs out there, some free, some paid. And even if you plan on starting out only making kicks, you do need a good reference. Our melodies get played with synthesizers, and the sounds we use for them are called leads. Often one synth is not enough, so we use more than one. This process is called layering and is an art in and of itself. Music production is complex, and if you like the idea of me patiently explaining you all the things you want to know in one-to-one Zoom sessions, I have just the thing for you. I've been giving private music production lessons for over 2 years now, and I can show you how I did anything in my own music, and we can look at your projects together while deep diving into anything you want. If you plan on getting 5 or more lessons, I offer a free session to help you with your choice. Check out my Fiverr page for more. How to start making melodies. One of the first hurdles you'll find is learning how to make good sounding melodies. Don't be discouraged, I too still suck at them. Sometimes. I mean, it's an evolving discipline, and even if you're really good, you will still have days where it just doesn't work. It happens to the best of us. And me. And I may sound like a broken record, or a looped sample, but this requires a lot of practice. I got good at making melodies because I made a practice project where I just spent a lot of time making melodies. And when I say making melodies, I mean melodies plus bassline, or even melody, bassline and chords. Melodies are a lot like insecure guys dating confident girls. We will fall apart when they leave, but the chords seem to manage just fine without us. How to arrange. Assuming you can now make a melody and you found a cool vocal. How do you make this into a full song? I find a theme makes this process easy. With a theme it is a lot less difficult to find fitting sound design, and thus it is a lot easier to give a little extra to your breaks. If your song has a matrix theme, for example, perhaps some glitchy sounds and a robotic effect on the vocal could do a lot. If it is a love song, perhaps arrange your drums like a heartbeat and etc. Just that doesn't do much, of course, but if you open up a sampler like Flex, for example, you can browse sounds like plugs, basses and more and use whatever fits your vibe. For love, perhaps a dreamy swell, for a dark raw style thing, maybe something more ominous. Finding the right sounds makes it a lot easier to envision certain elements with it. With a plug, you may try a fast rhythm. With slow pad swells, you may try out longer drawn out chords. After setting the tone, you may want to think about the layout. You can look at your favorite song and see what they did to keep your attention during the breaks or intros. How to mix. I deliberately leave mastering out of this video because mixing is far more important. For those of you who know the difference, get out, this is a beginner's video. To everyone else, mixing is making all of the elements of your track fit together by tweaking their volume, frequency balance, panning and more. Mastering is taking your final mix down and making it as loud as it can get without the quality dropping too much. Mixing isn't as intimidating as it may look. You just send all your stuff to the mixer. In most DAWs this gets done automatically, but FL Studio is quirky. Select, right click, route to track. It also does bulk. With this you adjust volume. Volume is by far the most important feature, and these 1 to 9 slots are where you can shove your effects in. These are of course unique to every single channel. Mixing takes a while to master. That is misleading. Mixing takes a while to get good at, but there is one thing you need to keep in mind, which makes all of this a lot easier. Your elements should leave space for each other. Space can be thought of in both volume and frequency. If you play a kick and another bass heavy element at the same time, they will get in each other's way and lose clarity. And if let's say your bass elements are in total far too loud, it will negatively impact the rest of your mix. Another thing I like to keep in mind is trash in, trash out. What this means is that if you are an idiot and your wife is too, your offspring has a high chance of also being an idiot. In music terms, this means that instead of spending hours polishing a turd, you could just save time by making sure your input doesn't suck as bad. Sure, you can make a bad vocal less annoying with mixing, but just doing a new take will save you hours and it will sound a lot better, guaranteed. Where to find everything. This may have been my longest video so far and I didn't even make something. And while I'd like to think I could make a single video that could prepare you for a decent start, there is just too much to cover. But there is good news. I have an entire channel dedicated to this stuff and I am not alone. There are some great channels with awesome advice, and while tempting, I'm not gonna shout out a bunch of hardstyle channels I'm friends with, because I want you to binge watch my channel only. And honestly because I think it is short-sighted to only focus on just one genre. If you want to make hardstyle, yeah, watch hardstyle stuff. But if you want to make songs people want to listen to, look outside of the genre for inspiration. Tutorials and internet are one thing, but there is one way more powerful tool to get better. And this happens to be the most enjoyable part of it all. Networking. Join producer groups and make friends with people who also make music. Ask and give feedback. Other people may hear stuff in your songs you've never focused on. Or they can point you to stuff you didn't know existed. Don't give me this, ooh, I'm not qualified to give feedback so I'm not gonna bullshit. You know what you do and don't like in music, which is subjective and not too helpful, but you will notice when something is off. Even if you can't place it, you can tell where the song lost you. Feedback is by far the most influential factor in learning music production, and without it, none of us would be here. Lol, way too dramatic for the most enjoyable part of music production. I've met my favorite people because of this. Welcome to this amazing craft. If you have suggestions for future videos, leave them in the comments, as well as any other questions your mind is burdened with. If you like this video, or hell, if you've learned something today, I'd appreciate it if you would consider subscribing. If you need more convincing, however, perhaps try out my Melody Writing 101 video as a follow-up. I want to welcome you into this fun community, and I'm hyped to hear from you again. With that being said, it was a true pleasure to be your host once again, until we meet again.